Welcome to Heartspeak Podcast, episode 41, Entering the New World. Last year, my husband and I decided it was time to leave our old home. And 2 months later, we were sitting in our new home in New Mexico and loving what we had done. But 2 months to both sell and buy a new home is a lot of effort, as many of you know. And the biggest effort is deciding what to take with you from the old into the new. I'm sure many of you have had that same challenge. You look at your wonderful things that are in your house that you considered are priceless possessions, but you also see there are things that are really just old baggage, possibly even junk. And in the time that we decided to move, we were sifting through papers, we were sifting through things that other people had given us, wondering whether we could indeed get rid of them, because what if they came and visited us and those things were no longer around? That's the pleaser in me. Or whether or not something that I might have fitted into years ago was ever going to come back into fashion, or I was going to be able to fit into it anymore. And so when we move home, it's a great opportunity to look at what have we been holding on to? What have we been holding and saying, this is essential to my life. I need this. Without this, my life will not exist. And maybe you've got a little Taurian energy in you. And you are one of those people, a little bit like my husband, who says, this is my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. This is my possessions. And indeed, I have to say that I probably emptied the house of my things in very short time. It took a little later, a little longer for him to do the same thing. And I can remember one evening when we were digging into the cellar. It was dark, it was even wet outside, and we're hauling boxes out from deep within the cellar that he had placed there 14 years ago when we moved into the house, and never touched them. Am I ringing any bells with you? And he felt at that time, 14 years ago, that it was essential that he stored these boxes, stored these possessions, and yet they had not been important to him for 14 years. And I was willing to haul these boxes out on my hands and knees until I got to a box that just had boxes in it. And I said, we've been storing boxes for 14 years, and I am putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into helping you to move these boxes from one place to another. Now, my dear husband understands this, and I know he would agree that he has a tendency to hoard or to hold on to things. Nothing bad, let me assure you of that. But he is a person who has a way of holding on to things because they seem essential. I also have things, but they may not be outwardly important. I hold on to emotions and stories and beliefs, and that's really what I want to talk about. It isn't the stuff we carry, but when we're moving house, or maybe when we're moving jobs, or something's happening in our life, and I've seen that where people have died who I loved in my life, I've suddenly said, what's important? And as these retrograde planets that I've mentioned before, Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, are occurring this time, for many of us in the summer, for some of you in the winter, it is over these months from about May to August, May to September, that we're saying, what's important? What is the baggage that I've been carrying, maybe much longer than just 14 years? For many people I meet, I see it's not even from this life, it's lifetimes are coming to you, old baggage that you have carried from lifetime to lifetime, and now it's coming to the surface. Pluto's bringing it to the surface and saying, what's important to you? What's essential for you to hold on to? What could you not survive without? And you might say, all of it. But I think, as in my experience, I've often moved from one house and had to put everything into storage. And then 6 months later, I've taken it out of storage, and I've wondered, why did I actually pay money for this to be in storage? Again, I wonder how many of you have done that. 6 months almost is a time, not 14 years, to look at your possessions and say, does this still serve me? Could I work without this? And what I'm wanting to talk to you about is, does this nurture my soul? Does this help me to grow? Is this job, this relationship, these beliefs, are they still helping me to expand myself, or are they drowning me? Are they weighing me down? How many times am I listening to people recently telling me, I just want to be free, I want to fly, I want to be creative, and yet all of this is holding me back. And you might say, well, hang on a minute, one needs to make a job, have a job, make money, look after the children, help them graduate, have a mortgage, a pension. All of that's true. But what is the belief that is driving you to do those things? And you might say, well, it's simple. I have to do it. I should do it. This is my duty. This is my responsibility. I have no problem with any of that. But when we're shooting on ourselves, when we're saying we must do it, we ought to do it, it takes away that pleasure. And again, some of you might say, well, that's just the way life is. But in a busy day, it doesn't mean we can't have moments when we can just step outside that world of shoulding, that world that says it's my duty, and breathe the air of freedom. Breathe the air of newness. Root ourselves, as I've spoken about many times, into a luscious, safe world where we say, hang on a minute, I'm not going to act from fear. Yes, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to make sure I'm responsible for people around me. But I also, 5 minutes every hour, I'm going to respond to my needs, be responsible for me, responding for what I may need in my world today. So how does this sound to you? This sense of a new world isn't something so far away. It's right here. The new world is right here. But it feels like trying to climb Everest to reach it. It feels as if we have to do an awful lot of work to make this tiny step. Sometimes people talk about how hard it is to take that journey between our head and our heart. I think that's very true. But even more so, it's even harder to let go of our stuff, the things that have supported us, our identities, our values, our structure, the things that we have put so much effort into creating. I've worked hard on this marriage. Why should I let it fail? I've worked hard on this relationship. Oh, absolutely. I'm not in any way saying don't celebrate what you've done. But where is the effort more than the value that you're getting from it? Where are you not enjoying yourself? And where do you need something to change in order to get back into that level of joy, that energy of the heart? There's a saying that says how hard it is for a rich man to pass through the eye of the needle. And the eye of the needle is actually the Vesica Pisces. Vesica Pisces being this sacred portal from one place to another place. The eye of the needle. And the truth is how hard it is when we are carrying all our bags, our baggage, to get through that eye, because we're saying, oh, I've got to take this with me. This is essential to my existence. So what would you be willing to let go of? And do you even know what's running the show for you? My last podcast, I talked about my own beliefs about sacrifice being part of service, how I should always help other people, because if I don't help them, something might happen to them and it would be my fault. I'm exaggerating, but I'm putting a little idea onto there. And I'm saying to you, do you even know the beliefs that are pushing your life, or creating your life? Do you even know what is structuring you and making you feel limited, making you feel stuck? I can assure you it is not someone outside you. I can assure you it's not circumstances outside you. You're creating those circumstances to reiterate, reinforce what you already believe about yourself. Remember, I've told you, you're a magician. Remember, this world out there is a hologram. You do a fabulous job, as do I, to create the reality based on my belief system. So what's this new world? First of all, I want you to know this new world is here. It's already here in its present energetic form. You may not be able to see it because, again, we're spending so much time reinforcing the reality, the holographic reality that isn't working for us, but hey, we know it. So when I go, look over here, there's a new world, you'll say, go away, leave me alone. I like this world because it gives me security. Bottom line, everybody wants to feel secure, wants to feel safe. But is your life causing you to have safety? Is it the security you want? I hear people say, well, you know, I'm too old to change. You're never too late to change. In fact, when you get older, you start to feel, I need to do it now. I need to do those things that I kept pushing off. It's time to come home. And the new world definitely came into place around 2012. Some of you know about 21st of December 2012, a time where most indigenous cultures, ancient people, spoke about the birth of a new world. That's why they said the world's coming to an end. But it wasn't the world's coming to an end as in the planet Earth. It was the world as we know it is coming to an end. And also time was dissolving. It's the end of time. But it wasn't the end of time. It was the end of linear time, the end of believing that there's a past, present, future. The belief that actually time is existing here and now. And we all know that because I can't believe that we're in June and where did the rest of the year go? And yet some of the things I did back in February seem a long, long time ago. Does that resonate with you? So we have the new world here. It's in its energetic form. It's resonating. It's waiting to see if we notice it. And it isn't just, oh, well, I'll just take my baggage from that old house to the new house. Of course, that's what we often do. But what we found when we came to our new house, we didn't have an attic, we didn't have a cellar. We couldn't store something somewhere and pretend it didn't exist anymore. We had to deal with it. We had to face it. We had to really say, is this helping me to grow? Is this true to me? And that's the questions I want you to ask yourself. If my journey in life, is all about becoming whole, knowing myself. Do you remember I talk about the soul being in the center of a flower with many petals around it? Do I know all my petals? And the only purpose for our experiences in the outer world are to become more aware of who we are. Man, woman, know thyself. So we get an idea connected to our soul. Our soul says, okay, this is an area of your life you don't know. Here's an idea. Your mind, the great planner, the mental body, says, okay, I will plan an experience so that I should see it in the outer world. What am I talking about? I think about writing a book. The idea comes, write a book. My mental body does the planning. This is how we're going to do it. This is the time we're going to take to do it. And my emotional body, all my emotions are the fuel by which this book comes into being. Blood, sweat, and tears. But I use my emotions as energy to create my book, my reality. At the end of that, I see my book it's published. And I go, there we are. My ideas became my reality. But if I then say that book is everything that I am, I am an author, and I say to everybody, I'm an author, I am this author, that defines me and limits me. When I see that book, I say, I am an author of wisdom, I am an author of understanding, then I don't need to hold on to the energy of the book. The book will do its own thing. I take ownership of it, then I let go of my attachment to it. Now, we somewhat do that with our children. We say, okay, I have an idea, I'm going to birth a child, my sperm and egg come together, and off we go. And at some point you say, I really acknowledge and love my child, but I am not them. They are not structuring my life. my identity is more than the child. So of course you're always going to care for that child, but you are not defined by that child or that identity. Or that's the way it should be. So what does this new world want? It wants us to be creative, as I'm suggesting, but that's been a principle of this old world. This world is very unique. This planet is a creative planet. Now, what does that mean? It means that in the core of this planet is fire. I often call it dragon energy, consciousness. So it's not just fire as in heat, it's the fire of consciousness. It's carrying the blueprint for everything that ever could be produced on this planet. All right, so it is a creative place, this earth, with the core of fire of creativity within it. And what we were meant to do when we came here was to tap into our soul. What does our soul need to become whole? Look around and say, where's the pieces, the Lego pieces that are going to create my reality? Draw on that from the earth, use the tools and also the resources that earth has to offer, not just in earth, air, fire, water, or bricks and mortar, but the resources of your beingness. When you create something, you're not just creating something from a piece of paper or a piece of wood, you're creating it from everything that you are. You're pulling on your own air, earth, fire, and water. Does that make sense? It's like the air is my spirit, my ideas. The water are my emotions. The earth is my knowledge, my basis. And the fire is my passion. So that when we create something, we're bringing in all the elements of this earth to make that creation occur. So here I came onto this planet with my soul here resonating, saying, to become whole, this is what you need to create in the outer world. And I use all those elements, all that energy to create something. When I create it, I say, aha, that's who you are, Christine. Now I see a petal of mine. And then once I have taken that petal into my heart, I accept into myself the fact that I'm an author. I let go of the energy because I don't need to keep repeating it to know who I am. Make sense? So even if I've written 8 books, I still know I'm an author. But the joy of the writing is that they're all different. So I'm a pioneering writer. I'm an inspirational writer. Hopefully different aspects of that author I keep taking into my heart. Problem occurs when we keep creating exactly the same thing over and over again. And that often comes from the unpossessed, the dispossessed parts of ourselves. Not the fact that I say very clearly, I'm going to write a book, I do it, I see it, I own it, let go. It's more parts of me that I have buried away. The parts of me that have got wounded, the parts of me that become separated. And they are wrapped in a belief system. So maybe I got wounded as a child. And maybe then my belief system is people shouldn't be trusted. The trouble is that without taking ownership of that, it lies down in the cellar somewhere. It is so powerful. It keeps creating a reality for me based on people can't be trusted, I will get hurt again. And when that happens, yes, once again, I go, oh, there it is. That's that belief I have. But instead of recognizing that that belief is, even acknowledging it, aha, I am the wounded little girl, I keep repeating the pattern and expressing it outwardly to say people aren't to be trusted. People aren't to be trusted. So nothing changes. And it's that emotional baggage and those unhealthy and unwanted beliefs that are now coming to the surface for us all to look at and say, is this the way I want to move forward? Is this helping me? Is this helping my soul grow? Now you might say, well, how do I move beyond that? Maybe what you do is you embrace that little child that needs being held and say, I will never leave you again. You can trust me. Or maybe you write a letter you never send to someone and you say, never do that to me again. Or maybe you say to yourself, I will allow myself to feel the pain of that but I will not let that define me. If I was abused as a child, I will not continually allow that abuse to continue, even if it's just in my mind. I am more than that. So this new world is asking these things of you. Become accountable for what you've created. Have the courage, not just to go to therapy, or that's wonderful, but have the courage to say, what is the belief that is creating this reality that I keep seeing in my world? And what is the emotion that goes with it? Let me take ownership. I am the wounded child. I am the child maybe that wounds. Let's make sure we look at both sides. I am the one that can be sometimes mean because I get hurt. I am the hurt one. You understand both sides of the pattern? So I'm going to be accountable for what my creations are. It's like that piece of Lego I put together. That I did that. I made that. I'm taking ownership. But then the second part is, but I am not going to become possessive of what I have created. That might sound a little contradictory. But what I'm saying, take ownership of it, but do not keep possessing that which is not yours. Now, it's easier for us to see it in the outer world, where people take something that doesn't belong to them. They take power from people. They take resources from people. They take resources from Mother Earth. They try to possess things that don't belong to them. Where are you possessing things that don't belong to you? Which can even be that you're saying, well, I'm doing them from the best intention, i.e., I'm only trying to help that person. That doesn't belong to you. Their unhappiness doesn't belong to you. Give it back. You might say, oh, but maybe you could be a supporter in a different way, be a carer in a different way. Karma is owning things which don't belong to you. Give them back now. What other features do we see of the new world? The ability to create a place where there is unity through the acceptance of diversity. Now, there's a lot of talk about accepting other people's differences, their minorities, their ways of being. But we can't then be prejudiced against people who don't accept that. We're going around in circles. I want you to understand that you need to unify with your diversity first. Take into your heart, I am different. I do have different ideas, but I don't have to project that on everybody else to get their acceptance of who I am. Unity through the acceptance of diversity starts with me. I love who I am in all its diversity. And that unconditional love means I'm both unconditionally loving of myself and I'm unconditionally loving of others. Prejudgment or prejudice has no place in this new world. And being intolerant of people, intolerant of other people's intolerance is just the same thing. It's prejudice. Second thing is, be aware that you are sensitive now because at 2012 the veils between the dimensions fell. There is a increased sensitivity that many of you may have felt to your actions on other people. Now you might say, well, I'm always feeling what other people are feeling. But what if you were going to feel everything that happened or you did to other people, and you were going to have to take responsibility for that? I remember reading the wonderful book, Marla Morgan's book, Mutant Message Down Under. And one of the big key pieces that the Aborigines brought out for me was, what if there were no secrets? And they said the reason that we are not telepathic as the Aborigines are is because we have too many secrets. What are your secrets? What is it that you need to bring to your heart to heal, to share, to be witness to? Because understanding that wherever you have secrets, you're always separated from this totality of your soul. So what if I could read your thoughts fully? What if your thoughts weren't a secret? Would you like that? And what I would say is, If you don't want me to hear your thoughts, don't think them. Because we're moving, this new world is one of transparency, openness, nothing hidden. And again, you're seeing that in the outer world where people are being seen for what they're doing. Let's have transparency. There is no place for puppeteers. There is no place for manipulation. And forget politics or forget anybody else. Where are we doing it in our own lives? Where are we hoping nobody will find us out? Where are we making little sly comments hoping nobody heard us? Where are we hiding things? Let's have transparency. You see, I don't feel it's about right and wrong. That's very made up by man. It's more about be transparent. Just be what you are here to be. Then take the response of you being that in the world. And then you can make better choices. In other words, if you throw a rock and it breaks a window, you have a choice whether or not you want to do that again when someone comes out and says, please pay for that window. But if we won't allow people to have their experiences and they keep that inside them, the problem becomes larger and larger. This is a new world. Are you ready to enter it using some of these different ideas that I'm talking about? To know that your world is waiting for you. To ask yourself, does this relationship nurture my soul? This job, this way of being? And nurturing your soul isn't like, oh, poor me. Are you growing? Are you expanding? Are you becoming more alive because of this? Or are you contracting? Are you disappearing from parts of you that you don't want to judge you? You feel that someone else is judging you. Truly, our own judgments, our old beliefs can often be very damning. We can be very mean to ourselves. So my final thoughts here are, how do we enter that new world? We enter it by living from our soul. And all the things I've been talking about are soul-driven, not emotionally driven, not belief system driven. You understand, they're just the tools to experience our soul. Then they should not be the creative producers. Living by soul, of course, is living by love. But if we use the word connection, as I say, am I connecting more fully to my soul through this? Am I connecting through my heart more fully? I've talked about listening to your intuition. Listen to what your heart wants. But it's also about enjoyment. The heart connects to joy. Am I enjoying this? And joy isn't happy, happy. It's oneness. That state of being alive in your body, not out your body in some make-believe story. In my body. When do I feel alive in my body? And that often isn't planned, is it? We might see a rainbow, we might see a sunset, and suddenly we're like, I'm in joy, I'm connected, I'm one with. That's what I'm meaning. When do you feel one with? Not just yourself, but from within yourself to the world, to the environment, to other people. Where you don't have to hide, you don't have to behave in a certain way, you don't have to put on an act. So ask yourself, when do I feel like that? And it might just be a memory. It might just be, oh, that moment when I was doing this, when I do that, that feels that way. But I'm going to suggest that 5 minutes, maybe 3 times a day, there's my prescription for you. You remember that, or you do it. Maybe listening to music helps you to do that, or dancing, or going into nature, or sitting with your loved one, or playing with your kids. For 5 minutes, 3 times a day, go into that place. Let that be the magnetic field force that creates the magnetic field around you that draws into your life those things that make you whole, make your soul feel glad. And when you do that, that is what will help you to enter into the new world. Because this new world is one that is soul-based. It is love-based. But that love has to be in the way that I've been describing. And so, until next time, be in heart, be in joy, know that everything you're doing brings you closer to yourself. Even a crisis, sometimes, let me say before I end, a crisis can take you to that place. Because when everything breaks down, you realize what really matters to you. You realize what gave you joy, what gave you a sense of connection, what gave you a sense of oneness. So when things do move apart from you, or things seem to come up all at the same time and put you into crisis, yes, deal with the crisis, but recognize often you've called on the dark goddess to break down everything that is not in harmony with your soul, to bring you back to your heart. So until next time, enjoy with many blessings. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Heart Speak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Remember to check out other episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. And do share with friends, family, and colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of Heart Speak.